Beginner investors often ask me about dividends. Dividends are simply a payment by a company to its shareholders, essentially as a thank you for owning our stock. Now, they're typically cash payments that go directly into your account, but they can also be products of the company or even shares in the company. Now, they're usually paid out quarterly, which means every 3 months, but I've also seen dividends that are paid out monthly, semi-annually, or annually. And there are even special dividends, which are just paid out because the company has so much cash on hand. Now, there are really 6 dividend dates that you want to keep in mind. So let's go through them in chronological order. The first is the declaration date. Now, this date isn't that important to shareholders, but it's essentially the day where the company tells everyone, hey, we're going to be paying a dividend. Here's how much it's for. Here's when it's going to be paid, et cetera, et cetera. 2 is I call it the must own date. So it's a fictional business day where at the end of that day, you have to own the stock in order to be eligible to receive the dividend. Because on the next day, the third one, that's the ex-dividend date. So this is the day when the stock goes ex-dividend, which means that new buyers in the stock will not be eligible to receive that dividend payment. So really, and this is a misconception, you can buy it on the must-own date, hold it overnight, and sell it on the ex-dividend date, and you're just as eligible to receive the dividend as every other shareholder. So if they've been holding it for months, you hold it for one night, you still get it. So you might be wondering, well, then can't I just game the system and buy it one day and sell it the next and just get a bunch of dividends? You can, but that stock price, in theory, is going to drop overnight by the dividend payment amount. So that really you're going to be getting a dividend, but your stock price just went down the same amount. So it's not really going to make a difference to you. Fourth, we have the record date. The company is going to look at their books and see, oh, is Brendan Mick a shareholder? Oh, yes, he is. He's going to be receiving a dividend payment from us. Because there's a delay in when you buy and when you show up on the company's books, this date's actually 2 days after the ex-dividend date. It used to be 3 days, but there's been some improvement in technology, so it's being reduced. But that's the date that the company's actually going to announce, and you have to do the math and go back and figure out when you have to buy the stock. Fifth, you have the payment date. So that's everyone's favorite date. That's when the shareholders actually paid the dividend. So keep in mind, you don't actually have to own the stock on that date in order to receive the cash payment. You have to own it on the must own date. And last is the DRIP date, or the dividend reinvestment plan date. I'll cover the dividend reinvestment plan in another video, but essentially for now, all you need to know is that if you're enrolled in the dividend reinvestment plan, it may take an extra 2 weeks before the cash you receive is reinvested in the company and shows up in your activity. There are a couple of misconceptions about dividends that I wanted to cover. First, note that dividends are not guaranteed. So companies can cut their dividends at any time, and essentially when that happens, look out below. Second, you don't have to own the stock for months on end in order to receive the dividend. Like I said, you only have to buy it on the must-own date, and then you can sell it on the ex-dividend date if you want. Third, dividends are not the be-all, end-all. So essentially, a company that pays a dividend is not necessarily a better investment than a company that doesn't pay a dividend. And I'll cover this in another video, but I wanted to make sure you're aware of that. For comparing dividends can be pretty tough based on dollar values because share prices are different in dollar value as well. So, and I'll cover this in another video, people will often use what's called a dividend yield, and that's just the percentage of the stock value that's paid out in dividends every year. That's all for now. I hope you learned a thing or two about dividends and keep on learning with these videos.